This is my review of the Beach Boys album, That's Why God Made the Radio. It was released in 2012 and produced by Brian Wilson. Before I start talking about the album, I just want to say what I'm going to be doing on the channel, hopefully after I finish the Beach Boys, because this is the last studio album of the Beach Boys I'm reviewing. Next week I'm going to review the live album that they released from the tour, or reunion tour that they did after this album. And I'm going to talk. I went to one of the concerts for that tour, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit when I review the album. And then the week after that will be my ranking of the Beach Boys albums. I'm going to rank the live albums that I reviewed kind of separately, also in that video, I think. And after that, after I finish the Beach Boys, I'm going to review Dennis Wilson's solo career real quick, because there's only like one album that he released, and then one like unfinished one that's been released, or like, I don't know what like a posthumous album or whatever. So there's just two albums. That's a quick 2-week thing. And after that, I'm going to start reviewing Pink Floyd. So after the next few weeks, finishing up the Beach Boys, going to do a quick Beach Boys solo career, and then going to go into Pink Floyd. So that's the plan, hopefully, what comes up next on the channel. So anyway, back to the album. So That's Why God Made the Radio. This was, I mean, really the only album of new material that they put out since I became a Beach Boys fan. The Smile Sessions came out, you know, obviously it was a new album that they had come out, but it wasn't of like new stuff. So this was their first album, first and only album of new material that I ever got the chance to buy. So I was pretty excited when this came out. I pre-ordered it, and I still remember pretty clearly like getting home from class, and it was an anthropology class, and you know, getting this in the mail or whatever, and listening to it. And I liked it then. I still like it now. I mean, this is kind of, it's what I expected, at least from like a reunion album of them at this point, I guess. Maybe it's actually, I think, a little bit better than what I expected, given that what I had heard about the stuff that they had released, you know, since the 80s. For the lineup of the band, they basically brought like everybody back except for, obviously, you know, Dennis and Carl no longer with us, and they didn't bring Blondie or Ricky back from that kind of short-lived lineup, but they brought David Marks back from, I think, his last album was like Little Deuce Coupe or something, but you know, an original member, and he plays guitar on here. Not, I don't think on every track. There's like a thing in the booklet that tells you who plays on all the stuff, but there's a lot of different people playing on this album, and I think Dave's the only band member that actually plays on it. I'm not sure like which guitar he is on every track, but I will say that during the live shows that I saw, he did play pretty well, because he played the solos, you know, on all the songs and stuff like that live, and I thought he played really well, especially for, you know, originally he was just the rhythm guitarist. So, anyway, yeah, the negatives about this album, or I think the big negative for me, other than that, like, I mean, I didn't really mind that he was the only one that played any instruments on it, because, like, I don't know, the other guys kind of haven't played that much on a lot of their albums throughout the year, so it's like, but, I think the big problem that I have with this kind of is in the production with the vocals. There's definitely auto-tune on here, like like you can just hear it, and I really hate that shit. Like I personally just feel like whoever invented auto-tune should be drawn and quartered. It just like but this is like an album where I kind of have to be like, okay, I can understand it, and like I probably probably kind of hypocritical for me. Like, yeah, I hate it so much, but I can understand why they're using it here. And like, it's just these guys are older, and obviously your voice ages as you get older, and some of them, like Brian's been through a lot of stuff, and so like their voices aren't where they were when they were younger. But at one time, these guys were like probably, I would say they were the greatest vocal group of all time. And they were great singers at one point. So now that they're older and like they need a little help, it doesn't really bother me, that they're using it, because one time they could outsing pretty much any band. But now they're old, they need a little help. I don't really mind that, I guess, because I like to get new music from them even though they're older and stuff. So I can kind of excuse like auto-tune in their case here, which probably sounds happy. Where I kind of like, I don't know, it seems to me like using it for a younger person who shouldn't have those vocal limitations maybe is a little bit like, is this person using this because they can't actually sing? Because that's probably why. Anyway, I'm kind of ranting about auto-tune and losing my focus, but yeah, that's the vocals on here. They sound like older guys using auto-tune for a lot of it, but that is what it is. I think they still sound better than than a lot of newer singers, but anyway, yeah, it's that's I think the big problem for me. The other kind of thing is, I think like in the songwriting department, I think they got a lot of help from this, sort of, it seems like, but I don't know, there's a lot of like writers on the song, but it does seem like Brian at least was involved with most of them, and Mike wrote some, I guess. With Think About the Days, it's almost kind of like an a cappella thing, except for there's like piano at the end and some stuff, but it's just like them. It's kind of similar to like Our Prayer, of how they started out Smile, which is probably what they were going for. It's just this like vocal thing, and it's nice. It's kind of a cool way to start the album, and it kind of segues nice into the title track, the second song. That's Why God Made the Radio. This is a song that kind of like, when it first came out, I was a little bit like, it's a little cheesy, but it's definitely grown on me over time. Like, because I especially remember like reading. I was even when I was reading like the stuff that I read before I do these albums, which isn't much to just like remember stuff about them. I was reading about how like much Brian apparently likes this song, and that the band all seemed to really like this song and be like really proud of it at the time. And I can kind of see why now. At the time I didn't really get that, but I think it has some definitely like cool things going on instrumentally and with the vocals and stuff that they're doing. So I think it's a pretty cool song and a good title track. The third song, Isn't It Time? Another one that I like. It's one of the ones that they played when I saw them on their tour. I think they played this, and That's Why God Made the Radio. And they might have played one more. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I liked it, and I think it's one of the catchier songs on the album, one of the more memorable ones. The fourth song, Spring Vacation, another one that I like, and I think is pretty catchy. There's one part that like definitely has some pretty noticeable like auto-tune stuff on Brian's vocal, but it's I don't really mind that much. But yeah, I think pretty good song. The fifth song, The Private Life of Bill and Sue, it's kind of like my guilty pleasure song of the album. Like lyrically, I think it's kind of dumb because it's about like a reality TV show thing, which I hate reality TV shows pretty much. So a song about them I wouldn't think I would like, and lyrically it is what it is, but I just find it like to be a really catchy song. I think Brian does a pretty good vocal on it. And yeah, I just find it like insanely catchy, but it's like not a song that I generally would want people to see me listening to. The sixth song, Shelter. This one I like. It's got a lot of most of the high parts on this album are sung by one of the guys who was in the touring band at the time for Brian. I think can't remember his name. Jeff Foskett. Okay, so that he sings a lot of the high parts on this album that Brian would sing, like the falsetto stuff, and he kind of this is almost like his song in points. He's kind of singing lead, I feel like, here, so it almost doesn't sound like them at points, but it's a pretty good song. The seventh song, Daybreak Over the Ocean, apparently, at least if Wikipedia is right, this is the only song on here that Brian didn't produce because it comes from a older Mike Love solo album, and I actually like this song quite a bit. I don't know, I think Mike does a pretty good vocal on it. I think it's just a catchy, kind of fun to sing along to song. The eighth song, Beaches and Mines, one that's not extremely memorable for me, but I don't have a problem with it. Then the ninth song, Strange World. It's one that I like. I think it's got another good vocal by Brian. The 10th song, From There and Back Again. This is the song on the album that's kind of like Al's vocal showcase, I think, even though in the earlier songs on the album, That's Why God Made the Radio and Isn't It Time in particular, they kind of trade off lead vocals a lot on those songs. And on those songs, Al sounds great. And he sounded great when I saw him live. I think he's the guy of the group whose voice is held up the best and that was the least changed from what he sounded like back in the day and when he was younger and stuff. But here on this version with the lead, it's just a little too on the auto-tuning side, sounding which he doesn't sound like that at all on the other tracks, but here it sticks out a little bit. But that's not really my problem with the album. I think he sounds fine, and it's a good vocal, but I just don't think the song is that memorable overall. I just kind of the most forgettable thing to me on the album. Really, it's one of the ones that I just can't even look at. I just listen to it and I can't remember the melody of it exactly. If you asked me to whistle it, I'd be I have no idea. The 11th song, Pacific Coast Highway, is kind of this short, sad song, and it's nice, but it's a little on the forgettable side to me. And then the 12th song, Summer's Gone, I think is a nice sounding closer. I think it's one that if I spent a little more time on, because I think I would like it better. This album, I definitely know the first half of it better because I used to listen to it a lot in my car, especially when I first got it. So I would, before I would get to wherever I was going before I got to the second half of the album usually, so I wouldn't hear it as often. But yeah, I think Summer's Gone's a solid closer, and I think it's got some cool stuff going on instrumentally. Kind of a nice chill way to end the album. Kind of sad. I'd say overall probably a 4 out of 5 for me. I think it's an album that, it's definitely an older band, kind of past their prime, getting a little help, and I'm okay with that because I could see where some people would have a problem with that and be well, this album doesn't really need to exist or anything like that. But I kind of disagree because I like listening to it. I think that more albums from an artist you love, I don't think is ever a bad thing unless they're god awful. But this isn't. This is perfectly decent, catchy music. So what if the vocals aren't the best produced? They still sound better than the '85 album. And yeah, I don't know. It's just I think it's a pretty solid album, and I'm glad that they put this out and that they didn't finish on with Stars and Stripes Volume 1 or with Summer in Paradise, because that would have been a shitty way for such a great band to go out. I mean, I think they're done at this point. I don't know. This is the last thing that they've done, so they're probably done at this point. This will probably be the last album, and I think that this is a perfectly good album to end on. Much better than if it had been, you know, Summer in Paradise, I'm going to say, because Stars and Stripes Volume 1 shouldn't even count. But yeah, 4 out of 5. You know, not a good place to start with them. I would only check this out if you've done the rest of the discography and just, you know, go to it kind of in the order it came out in last. But not in a bad way. Just I think this is a good kind of place to just sum up their career, a good like end, because the last two that they did definitely weren't good ends. But I'm just kind of repeating this, so